creating a 78-page guide on cold calling based on 3 million calls and just giving it away. I mean, that's insane. I don't know why you're doing it. And I know for a fact that guide has probably generated more pipeline than you, because I see thousands of people commenting that give me the book, give me the book.
17,000 people now download all the resources I've provided. If I did ad spend on LinkedIn to do the same thing over that 2-year period, I would have spent $700,000 on ad spend. I don't have $700,000 to spend on ad spend. I simply don't, right? I've created something that's going to solve a problem for you and you're going to find really useful. Do you want it? And they say yes. It's that bit is the lead magnet. The brand isn't important to people. It's the problem. So if we obsess over the problem we're solving for that with a nice guide, like, the brand's secondary.
Today's episode is about why most GTM motions collapse after the first few months. Teams add more tools, more sequences, more activity, but they never fix the core issue. They don't know who actually has the intent. My guest today has spent years building GTM around one question. How do you surface real buying signal before you ever try to sell? We get into how he uses research, guides, and free resources not as a marketing content, but as a signal filter inside the GTM engine. What to give away, how to tie it to ICP pain, and how this plugs into outbound and pipeline without turning into the content theater. This is Matthew Putnam, Head of Sales at Prospeo. If your GTM tools look busy but does not feel predictable, this episode explains why. Thank you so much for making it here, Matt. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing really well, man. Good morning. Ready to do some education.
Amazing. Now, based on our pre-call, I've been thinking about something that has been driving me absolutely insane in the sales world right now. Everyone I talk to, every founder is obsessed with the perfect cold email template, the AI tool that will write their sequences, the growth hack that will 10x the pipeline. And then I'm watching founders spend thousands on these tools, and sometimes they get nothing. But then I've seen you and your work at Twain, now at Prospeo, creating a 78-page guide on cold calling based on 3 million calls and just giving it away. I mean, that's insane. I don't know why you're doing it. And I know for a fact that guide has probably generated more pipeline than you, because I see thousands of people commenting that give me the book, give me the book. So before we get into the how and what, I need you to explain something to me. Why the hell are people sleeping on this? And why is everyone so focused on the pitch when they should be focused on the give?
Well, there's a whole load of things why people are, I suppose, sleeping on it. One of them would probably be, how enabled are the people that we're talking to on doing this? Like, if we're speaking about SDRs or account execs, they are normally a different function to marketing. And, this is usually something that would sit with marketing, the idea of we want to create a guide of something to be able to give to our prospects. So that's kind of point one. Like, am I in a position to actually do that? If I did it myself, would I get told off? Would I be in trouble? Would I need to sign off? How many hoops would we need to jump to? So there's already kind of a blocker there. And that normally stems down to the relationship between sales and marketing. So easiest fix here is to get sales and marketing together and talk about what people really want, so that, marketing can help create something really awesome. And then sales' job is just to give that to as many people as possible. And then the other thing is around value behind it. A lot of people don't really understand the value behind doing something like, this is what I call value first marketing or value first sales. And the idea is, because what we need to do, what we think anyway, is, my job is to book the meeting and create pipeline. That is my job. So when I'm calling people, I hope they're qualified so I can book a meeting. And we're not necessarily thinking about this in the longer game. So the way I like to think about this is, of all the prospects I'm going to be reaching out to, 4%, roughly, 3, 4, the number sort of changes depending on who you ask, are in market right now. The rest aren't. So what can I do to see who's in market right now and who's potentially coming into market soon? And this is where this comes into it. It's something that I'm going to create that is genuinely valuable to the people that I like to sell to, that's linked to the problem that we may solve, where people will stick their hands up and go, I want that. And the only reason why they're going to want it is because it's something to do with their job that they need to fix or something along those lines. Cool. I've now got someone who's telling me this is of importance, and I'm giving them something that's valuable for free. So their views of myself are going to improve. So we're kind of doing two things. I'm kind of finding intent, and I'm doing something nice, which people like. So the second thing is actually where we attribute our value. And unfortunately, we're not attributing our value to the long game. We're attributing our value to, I need to hit my target this month. What do I need to do that? What I'm talking about is something that's going to help me hit my target the next 3 months, but not this month because it's going to take some time. Or I have to message people about it. So I think that's where the two sticking points are. It's, where does the creation of this actually occur? Can we as sales reps influence that? 100% we can. There is a solution to that. And it's a really easy one, better communication internally. And then the second one is actually like, is this going to be valuable for me right now? We need to kind of step back from that and think more tactically about the plan for the quarter.
No, it sounds great. I mean, but I have some contrary opinion, and I'm going to be devil's advocate for a second. In fact, I'm going to be devil's advocate for the entire podcast today. You said, sales and marketing have to go hand in hand. They have to be on alignment. I understand the point, what you're trying to make, how you're thinking about this long term. But I'm also thinking from a point of view of an SDR who, let's say, listen to this podcast, who understand your strategy, who does not have a lot of say in this whole game. And that means they have to pitch this whole idea to their company. Hey, you know what? I listened to the podcast. I saw Matt, they have been doing great. And then there are founders, who could be technical founders who have never sold, but they like the idea. How would they go about thinking about it? How would they justify the ROI? And in their head, understand from a point of view that there's a founder, who has a small runway or who has this investor pressure to hire SDRs, maybe build a sales team or buy that shiny tool out there, which promises to book so many meetings, or, there are agencies who would do the same thing. How do you propose they think about this from the psychological point of view, and how do they go about acting it?
Yeah, so I think my thing for this, and this is what's really helped me when I first started, and this is what's driven it this whole time, is I'm creating things that my ICP, the people I sell to, find really, really useful. And what that does is it helps me really understand what's useful to them. So it's almost like a research piece. So I can improve my service offering, my product, I can improve all of that. And at the same time, I'm understanding my ICP even deeper because I'm understanding what things are actually of interest to them, what aren't. So I've created, I don't know how many now, maybe about 82 different guides, lead magnets, resources for people that I've been giving away for free. All 82 are different topics. I can tell you what the core topics are of the 82. Like I know which ones people have the real pain points behind. And brilliant. What I've then been able to do is shift my service to then support that more. And, I could have focused on all of the things that I've been creating topics on. And, look, for example, what we're talking about here is the sales resources I've created for sales teams. The service I'm talking about is sales training, sales advice. And then we've also got playbooks that people can pay for, right? If I just made that for everyone, I think some of my sales training would be very unpopular and not many people would book into it. But now we focus on literally 2 topics. That's it. And they're wildly popular. And we know that because, I've done all this research. I've seen what people really want. And that's just by giving away stuff for free that stick people's hands up. So from a founder's perspective, you can use this to really refine your product onto the things that are really important to people. And then I think from a sales perspective, like this is the way to truly understand your ICP. And trust me, if you're an SDR and you've created a report based on however many calls, for example, and then you're providing that to your ICP, you come across so much more in a powerful position than if you didn't. Because you've done this report, you've spoken to X number of people, you've got all the information to give to people. You are the expert in this situation. And that's one of the biggest things. So like now I've got, we did a count the other day, and across all of my sales training resources, and this has been 3 years of work of just researching, giving out, but we're at something like 820,000 words over the course of 3 years. There's no doubt that I'm an expert in most of these topics now, right? There's no doubt of it. And it's brilliant because when I talk to people, people can tell that, which is great. And it was an awful lot of work. A lot of it was really boring. But now I've got all this information. I feel like I'm sitting on a pile of gold, which is great. So, that's the 2 things in my opinion. Like you're going to be able to refine your service offering massively if you do this in a tactical way, but also you yourself will become more of an expert. So I think like those technical founders, this is a really good way for them to show off their knowledge of the industry they're trying to help out. For SDRs and account execs is a really easy way to build knowledge and then give stuff away that's going to make people feel good about you, which will undoubtedly help you book more meetings.
I hear you. Again, I'm going to put on my skeptical hat. and ask you, I'm an early stage founder, let's say, or let's say I'm you know, and as a marketing team, of course, I have a lot of data. I have a ton of data from customers' calls and whatnot. But I'm not like a big brand like Matt, or I'm not like a big brand like Crosby or Twain for that matter. Why would somebody be interested in downloading that information just because I'm giving it away for free?
So this is the thing, and this is where the real trick is with doing this sort of stuff. People have problems. It's not about me. It's not about you. People have problems. So if we do this right, the people that have problems want to solve those problems. So this is where the game begins, because it's about us creating things that are actually valuable to people. And that is it. And if we do create something that's valuable to people, people will stick their hands up. You do not need the brand behind it. This is why you see people put this stuff ungated on websites, no matter how big their brand is. That's why you see people on LinkedIn post about lead magnets and they may have 1,000 followers, for example. And honestly, I see a lot of people who do this and their posts outperform mine by a country mile. And it's about finding the right problem for the right people. And if people have a problem, they will stick their hand up. And this kind of brings us full circle to my first initial point. It's a really good way to find intent. As long as you find the right problem and the guide, for example, that you're creating has to match with that. And you have to give it in a way where you're expecting nothing in return, because otherwise people won't ask for it. If people think this is if I ask for this, then I have to have a meeting. And if I have a meeting, then I enter the sales cycle. You've kind of got to give people the safety net of, have it. This is yours. If you want it, take it. It's really, really useful. It's based on all this information and data. And then that's the other thing. You have to back it with stats. It has to be legit, right? So come in with actual factual stuff versus anyone can go on ChatGPT now and be like, hey, create me a 20-page document on how to send emails. And it will be awful. Like, it will be okay, but it'll just bring all the generic stuff that it has access to on the internet and pull that into a document. Versus if I was going to do that, I mean, one, I send about 25,000 emails every single month anyway. So I've got all the stats, I've got the figures, I can see what outperforms what. So, there's all these stats to back it up. With cold calling, I do my cold calling myself. I've got a team who also do cold calling as well. So, there's stats to back it. So, in your scenario, cool, you may be a smaller brand, but there are things that you're doing to help real people solve real problems. Get some stats behind it, some real stories, make it actually actionable, and then you've got something fantastic. I absolutely guarantee it.
There might be somebody who's listening to this podcast and thinking, oh, you know what? These are two sales dudes talking about, a very mature industry where all their audience is on LinkedIn. It's natural for them to talk about it. And it's probably not going to work in my industry because my audience is not on LinkedIn, as an example. What would you tell them if they were to create a guide? How would they distribute it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is true. There are a lot of salespeople on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's now got 1 billion people in, right? And if you're selling a SaaS platform or something along those lines, unless you're targeting maybe roles that are in factories, like heads of logistics within a logistics silo where they send out the trucks and stuff, maybe they're not always going to be on LinkedIn. They will be on LinkedIn at some point because people use it as a CV. But you then got to go and find where these people are. And honestly, the channels you can use. LinkedIn's an easy one if you've got the ICP on LinkedIn, and you will have the ICP on LinkedIn. You've just got to make sure you're connected with enough of them. Some people are on LinkedIn more than others. So sales and recruitment and marketing, those roles tend to be on LinkedIn more frequently than others. Other people still visit LinkedIn, so just make sure you're connected with them. There are also loads of other channels. So pretty much everyone has emails. So really simple outreach channel is, I've created this guide. Do you want it? That's the email. There's nothing more to it. Explain what the guide is. Do you want it? Reddit. If you're targeting more like technical people, Reddit is the place to be. So targeting on Reddit. YouTube, you can use these guides in videos at the end of the guide, at the end of the video. So, hey, we've also created a guide on all of this, on how to create guides. If you like it, comment at the end and I'll send it to you. So there's all these different channels. You just need to make sure you know where your ICP is. And reality is, if you don't know where your ICP is, we need to find that out first before we even think about these guides. That step has to happen first. So you need to know where they are. You must have some form of distribution already. Otherwise, you can't sell to these people anyway. So once you've established those two things, then we can start talking about the guides and the resources that are going to hook them in.
All right. I'll back you up with the statement, but then I have a follow up question. I have tried the lead magnets myself, I think, ever since I talked to you. And I've been hearing that a lot. I mean, I was on the fence, I'll be honest, whether it will work or not. But recently, what I did is I created one of my custom GPT and I created a video which went viral on Instagram. It's basically how do you introduce yourself in an interview? I'm giving you an example. And that went viral. I have about more than 10,000 likes and I had no lead magnet. But because I got some popularity, I got again about 8,000 followers within 5 days. And so what I did is I created a few more videos. Of course, I'm targeting individuals, I'm targeting consumers. And I tried what you said, hey, if you comment, I'm going to send you a guide. And yes, I created that guide myself, of course, with the help of a little bit of GPT, and I had Canva design it. So it kind of saved me a ton of time. And yes, I totally agree it works. All I did is I created a tally form. So they fill the tally form and they have the access to the guide immediately. I have 200 plus people already on a wait list for a course which I'm going to launch. Now, while I'm pretty sure it worked, but I mean, a skepticism in me still says, it probably worked because it was consumers. It may not work because I'm selling to like a bigger conglomerate, a bigger companies, or which are B2B companies, or maybe, these huge companies who may not want it. Like, I'll give you an example. So recently I talked to somebody who said, I speak to head of procurement. And while these people are on LinkedIn, they don't engage because they don't want to be seen. So let's take that as an example. And if they're not going to comment while they're on LinkedIn, then this whole idea fails.
Not necessarily. So what we're talking about here is actually something completely different to lead magnets. We're talking about engagement on posts, which feeds a different feeling for us, right? It feeds, I got 10,000 likes. I'm buzzed. Feel amazing. That's not the lead magnet. The lead magnet is the people that, are interested in going and do something. So cool. There are so many people that don't engage on LinkedIn. The simplest way of doing this is don't comment for X, just put the link. This is one of the tests I've been doing over the last sort of year or so. What's fascinating about it is actually marketing have obviously been doing this for years, right? They just they either put something on the website and they'll either gate it or ungate it. All we're doing by either saying, gating a resource or, hey, I email you and I say, I've got this resource, do you want it? All we're doing is we're putting slight barriers in the way of people to decide whether they want to do it or not. A lot of people don't want to comment interview on LinkedIn so they get the resource, right? Cool. We're going to lose a chunk of people that see it. And then they go to the website and then they have to decide, I've got to put my email in, or do I want to do that or not? So we're kind of just putting little checkpoints in. Now, we now have to talk about what's successful as a lead magnet or not. Generally, if you hit the perfect problem with the thing you're solving for in your guide or your lead magnet, less doesn't always mean worst, because the more hoops you get people to jump through, and the biggest hoop is pay money, right? That's the biggest hoop of a lead magnet is like, do I want to pay money for this? If they do, they really want to solve that problem. So then depending on how easy or hard you make it for someone also dictates the user you're going to attract. So I've had lead magnets where, fantastic. I've had I think my biggest one ever was a MedPick guide back last year when MedPick was huge. And we're like, we've got to, Banter's dead. We're doing MedPick now. And I can't even fathom how many people commented on this thing. And I spent 2.5 weeks responding to everyone, solely spending 12 hours a day responding to people. It was ridiculous, but fantastic. It grew the whole platform by 3,000 people, which is insane. But, compared that to the people where I'd put a price behind it, the people that I put a price behind it have spent way more money than those 3,000 people combined, which is fascinating, right? So we've got to understand here, I think we've got to separate between how many likes and comments do I get on a lead magnet? Because a lead magnet is so much more than that. A lead magnet is, a link on a YouTube video. A lead magnet is that little respond to me yes or no on an email. The lead magnet is, I've created something that's going to solve a problem for you and you're going to find really useful. Do you want it? And they say yes. It's that bit is the lead magnet. And that's what we've got to focus on. So if someone clicks on a link, I've put a lead magnet. So the one we're doing at the moment for Prospio with the cold calling, we've got a link in our emails. We are determining intent at the point they click the link because they're obviously interested to some degree. Otherwise, they wouldn't have clicked the link. So you can gate it, you can ungate it, you can put comment X for Y, or just put a link on it. And the nice thing about LinkedIn as an example, LinkedIn doesn't punish links anymore. And if anything, it now tracks the stats of how many people click it.
I
So they're trying to
swear, I
show
still
that,
believe that it limits, so I never put the link.
yeah, I mean, again, that's another conversation on the algorithm. But, I will say, like, I've been testing just links and I get just as many people sign up. Yeah. Do I look at the post after and see less impressions? Like, yeah, because the trick was the comments drive engagement. And we feel good about the comments and the engagement and the impressions, but that doesn't matter actually at the end of the day. I care about how many people have signed up afterwards, right? So I've been testing both. Depending on who your audience is, you've got both as an option. Put a link, do the comment, put it on your website, ask them to put an email in. Don't ask them to put an email in. The good thing about making it a little bit harder for people is it gives you a little bit more stuff to do afterwards. So like if someone has to put their email in, at least you can reach out to them afterwards. Otherwise, you're just being purely kind, which is also a good thing if you want to do that. I mean, that really helped me grow as a brand online. I gave away so much stuff for free that, it's nice when I speak to people and they're like, oh yeah, I've had these 2 guides of yours. Thank you so much. It really helped me. You're like, no problem. And already, I'm in a different position when I'm speaking to them already because they're aware of me to some degree or whatever, right? So you've kind of got to draw the line where it's important, but you can do both is my point. Like there is solutions to everything. It just affects scale is the end of this. But again, this is about us making the right thing for the right person for the right problem so that we can then eventually build pipeline from it.
I think I can start to understand where you're coming from, and I'll give you my viewpoint. Given I'm a tech SaaS founder myself, and if I think about all the emails which I might have replied in the last 3 months, most of these emails either said, "Hey, we have a report ready for you, and we can send it to you," and I'm pretty sure after I say yes, that's when they start the report. But I think I found the most value in those products or those people who are offering those services. And if I ever have to go back to them, I think I will, without a doubt, go back to them. Instead of somebody who says, I have worked with 1,000 companies and we have these many case studies. I don't care about that because I don't have the time to research all about you. I'll give you an example of a guy who reached out to me. This is from a first podcast we hosted. We had 23 views, let's say, after a week on YouTube, of course. And he said, Jim's podcast require more than 23 views. That was the subject line. And that intrigued me. And then when I opened the email, it was about, hey, I've done the whole research and I have 5 areas where you could improve. And immediately you will see an improvement in a week. I said, okay, fine, send it. He sent me like a 20-page report and it was really, really good. Like gold. I would not even know that. I have a full-time podcast editor and he did not know that. So there you go. I mean, I can't work with that company right now because they're, of course, out of the budget. But if I have all the money in the world, that's the first one I'm going to. So I think that validates what you're saying.
Yeah, and you've already almost tested a bit of their work quality, right?
Yep.
So already you've kind of, I understand. Great, the quality of their work is, yeah, okay, cool. It's outside of my budget right now, but I know that when it's in budget, and that's like the perfect example of this, in my opinion. Because also using lead magnets in this way or creating these resources with your marketing team, they do 2 things. You can, if you're smart enough with the problem, like we said, it creates and highlights intent from people. Are they in market? Are they close to market? But then the other thing is brand. And brand's obviously a lot harder for us to track. And obviously, maybe if you're a founder, you care more about brand than if you're an SDR. Like maybe you care about your personal brand, but not necessarily the company's. But it does both. That's the thing, right? It does both. And it's also a pattern interrupt. It's the other thing. Like pattern interrupts are the thing. If I just send you an email and I'm like, hey, I've just seen you're doing this, that probably means you're experiencing this problem. I offer this solution. How about a meeting? Everyone is sending that email. Arguably, the email I've just described to you is not a bad email. Like, that's a really good format. It doesn't have any of the, I hope this finds you well, or essay. It's a really nice, simple structure. I'd really suggest it. But everyone is trying to send that email. And the ask is, hey, would you like a meeting? Versus, we solved that problem. But anyway, don't know if you're facing it right now. I've created a 22-step guide. It's detailed on how to solve all of those things. Would you like it? God, I don't have to speak to you. Yeah, of course I'd like it. I don't need a meeting right now. I want to see if the problem I'm facing is as bad as I think it is. Help me validate it. Yeah, send me the guide. And then I see it and I'm like, oh, damn, these guys know what they're doing. Like, this is detailed. I could probably do half of this myself. And then the reality steps in where, the problem they're facing is bigger than they can actually handle and they do need help. Cool. You're already there. I'm here to help. I've got the solution.
Makes sense. Let's switch gears and, practice this real time. I mean, easier said than done, right? I mean, it's easy for us to say because we sell to salespeople, sales audiences all on LinkedIn. Why don't we do this, okay? We have never done this in the podcast before. We're going to throw 3 real companies at you, 3 different industries, 3 different ICPs, different problems. And we want you to research. We want you to walk us through in real time what lead magnet would you create for each one. And we don't want any generic information. We want to know what exactly would you create. We don't have to go to the depth as long as you give us the problems which you think we should be solving for. How would we distribute it? I think you've already answered that briefly, but it'll be helpful if we could talk about that particular company. What are the psychological hooks you would use? And lastly, how do you tie this back without being salesy?
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, let's start. Do you want me to share screen as I go through sort of the flow?
That'll be awesome.
I'm more thinking for like the research piece anyway.
That'll be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first company we can take, I think one of the hottest tech company in the world, Rippling.
Okay, let me make sure I'm seeing the right. I'll share my screen. Let me know if you can see what I'm seeing. Is this showing?
Yes, I can see your screen.
So we're going Rippling here, rippling.com. Employees get more done with Rippling. So I'm guessing straight off the bat, we're targeting HR teams here.
That's right.
Maximize HR's impact. Your business's payroll software shouldn't be. Admin. So what I normally do, if I'm doing something like this, right? I've already got, as you can see, top left, we've got ChatGPT open. I'll use ChatGPT just for the sake of the demonstration. I've normally used Claude, to be honest. But we need to now understand, okay, who are these people selling to? So tell me the individuals and their problems that would be targeting when selling software. It's easier now than ever to do research on prospects. But again, I want to emphasize what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to create a tool or a lead magnet or anything that is about Rippling. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to understand who are the people Rippling are reaching out to. So HR leaders, HR managers, fantastic. Problems, manual repetitive tasks. So I imagine that's really what Rippling solves for. Disparity systems, compliance risk. Okay. So they do a lot of things. Is this, by the way, because you mentioned, do you know this brand? Do you know Rippling?
Yes, I know the brand. My founder.
And is this accurate? Like what we're seeing
here?
Yes,
this is accurate because they kind of offer the full suite and not just face one problem. So they, let's say if you manage a remote team, they will even provide those laptops, make sure you can track them. So that's the reason they're targeting IT.
Okay, found that. Yeah, fine. People. There's so many ideas here. There's so many ideas. Now, we'll go through each one based on who we're targeting.
Just take one idea. I think that should be fine.
Fine. Okay, we've got disparative systems as a point here. So this would mean that, obviously Rippling would be a tool that would bring the systems together or, replace multiple systems, but give you the same functionality. But what we're assuming here is that heads of HR and HR managers have loads of tools that do loads of different things to do with benefits, onboarding, offboarding, are people coming to work or not, and so on. So a really simple one would be the HR system checklist. And what this checklist is a sensor checking, how disconnected or how on top of all the tools they've currently got in place. And for them filling out this checklist, it will tell them how bad their situation is or not. So cool. We've got a checklist to help you assess, how bad is the tech stack or not. By the end of it, you're going to know you've actually got a really good setup where everything's communicating really well, or it's bad and you probably need to do something about it. So it's not necessarily a guide, but it's something that within 5 minutes, you, HR manager, HR leader, will know how bad the situation is or not. So you're either going to be reassured by the end of it, or you're not going to be. And that's like just the instant idea. And then another one would be how to mitigate. Here we've got compliance. The ultimate guide to compliance mitigation for HR managers. And that could be a more detailed guide on all the areas where compliance is at its riskiest, how to tackle it, suggestions on what to do in certain situations. So like a full guide on this. Like you could make this, as long as you've got the research available, like, I mean, you could go into such depth on this one. And yeah, as long as we make it actionable. So these are the areas of risk. This is the early warning signs of compliance risk for this specific area. Here's how you handle it. You know, if you suggested that to someone, and if you're selling into HR and stuff like that, I think you will know how, you know, unfortunately, compliance is a really boring topic, but when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. So companies will do everything to make sure they're compliant to avoid, you know, fines, lawsuits, and so on. So that could be a really, I mean, that was probably the most obvious guide idea for me, actually, in this scenario.
I think that's amazing. Let's take the next step. Let's say we've decided the ultimate guide to ensuring your startup or your company is compliant.
Yep.
What would be the next step? How would you start about writing it?
I will stop sharing for this because this one's probably easier to actually talk through. Now what we've got to do is, this is where I enter my research phase. So cool, we've come up with a topic idea. We need to really understand the problem. Now, again, you could do the same thing as what I just showed you there. You could use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to get the initial idea and start researching. Okay, we're talking about compliance now. Let's understand how real compliance is as an issue to heads of HR and start doing that. But you need to validate it. Otherwise, it's just the generic information pulled from the internet into ChatGPT. So odds are your sales team have recorded multiple calls with customers where this conversation's probably come up. This is where you can use transcripts. You probably want to take the names out of the transcripts, but you know, the words that are being said by the people are legitimately real. And I would take all these transcripts and pull that into a document and then use that to then feed into my research. And you can also, again, you can leverage like Claude and ChatGPT in this to help structure this stuff, but get it to strictly use the information that you're providing from your transcript. And then there's other things you can do, like YouTube videos. You can find YouTube videos. We are not all the first people to come up with these ideas, right? So the amount of information that's available online, you've just got to make sure it's the good stuff. So I would start by researching all of that. So I'd go customers, YouTube videos, other things that are already out there online, and I'd pull that all together. Then I would start structuring it. And I'd always structure something around, I normally focus on a few things. Why it's important, usually always start there. How the issue comes about, so we can start to recognize what the issues are. But by going through this flow, we're truly understanding what the problem is in this scenario. And then I have to make it actionable. Everything has to be actionable. So if they're reading what I've created for them, they then have to have something that they can take away and go and do that day. Otherwise, in my opinion, what I've offered them isn't very useful. It's just telling them how bad things are. So I always want to make sure the majority of it is like actionable steps. So an example of this would be the one I gave you earlier, which is like emails, how to write good emails. And the issue, or I start with why it's important, because people think email's dead or it's not working. And the reality is we're just not writing them in a way that's effective or readable or appealing to the people we're writing them to. So the start there, we start with explaining that. Then we start going through all the warning signs that actually our emails are bad. And, I can just list all the problems with an email, right? Structure, the words used, are we making it prospect centric, and so on and so on. And then I'll go and explain all the ways you can then tailor and make an email, 1, look fantastic, 2, make it appealing, but 3, most importantly, make it prospect centric to the people you're reaching out to and stuff. So that's normally the flow I'd always follow. The research bit's always the most important bit though. So I would have got the data from all of my emails. I would have gone and got data off the internet from really bad emails. I would get information from emails that people have sent me and I've gone like, this is how this made me feel. So I'd collect all of this first, then I would structure it into something. The lovely thing is, if you're an SDR listening to this, is a lot of this information marketing would already be sitting on. They already have this information about the ICP. They would have already made guides, newsletters, you name it. In your CRM, there will be so many recorded calls, which, everything's transcribed now. Control C, Control V, structure it. What are the important bits of information? And that's where I think Claude and ChatGPT are really powerful. Take this 10,000 word transcript from a sales call, Bring me all the valid information that's been spoken about to do with compliance risk mentioned by the person we're speaking to. That's what I need. And I'm going to do that for 20 sales calls.
I think you've given tons of ideas to me. I think one of the idea which strikes me immediately is one, you should create a custom GPT for this, which you can even distribute it to the world. That could be your lead magnet as the next, by the way, because you're so good at creating it. Just create a custom GPT where people would enter or push all their 10,000 words, like you said, and it's going to give them ideas, structure, whatnot. I think you've solved the biggest problem, which is the initial part of how do I think about creating the lead magnet in the first place. Talk to us about the second part. I don't have a huge design team. Do I have to make this pretty, or can I just paste words into it? Is there a difference between the two?
Yes, this has probably been the thing I have the biggest mental battle over internally, because I want mine to look beautiful. They never used to be. They used to just be Word docs.
Yeah.
The challenge is, I think more people are doing the Word doc stuff now. So again, what's the pattern interrupt there?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone sees a Word doc online or a Notion document. But I think that's it. We've got options now. You can create these in Word docs. Just put a little bit of effort into formatting them. Okay, that goes a long way. And you can do all sorts of stuff with that. Like Word docs now, you can make them paperless. So it's just a plain background, no pages. And everything flows. It doesn't look like a Word doc anymore. Notion docs is a really cheap entry point for Notion. I think there's even a free version. And again, you can create everything on there, add images, add videos. So Notion's really, really good. I think it depends where you want yourself on the scale. So now for me, I'm going up the scale where I want everything to look fantastic. And I've started to invest a little bit more money and time into the design of things. I've learned how to do the designs myself, and creating multiple, I'll get some external help, and I've templated everything and so on. But it's more because I'm creating the resources as the founder or for Prospio, when we create resources that just help people with sales. We have a brand that we want it to be attached to so that people can associate the resource with the brand. So, you can kind of go up and down that scale. You don't have to attach it to the brand. If you're a sales rep who's got a marketing function and you're going to send one of these things to hundreds of thousands of people, it's probably worth just waiting 2 weeks for someone in marketing to make it look nice, in my opinion, because it would just give a different feeling when people open these things.
Makes sense.
But it also comes back to how people want to solve the problem, right? Their problem's bad enough, and you've given them a checklist in Google based on 200 conversations you've had with clients who've solved the problem. I'm probably not going to care if there's a photo of something relevant in the checklist. I probably want to know what the checklist is.
Makes sense. Talk to me about the ROI of all these things versus a traditional way of doing things.
I can give some really good examples on this. So one of the ones that have helped me quantify this the most is I posted most of mine on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I started because it didn't cost me any money to post on LinkedIn. And I did that for 2 years. Over those 2 years, it gained, I've had, I think it's something like 17,000 people now download all the resources I've provided, which is like 17,000 different people. And then when you add in how many resources people have downloaded like multiple times, if they've gone for different ones, that we're in like 27,000, which is crazy. If I did ad spend on LinkedIn to do the same thing over that 2 year period, I would have spent $700,000 on ad spend. I don't have $700,000 to spend.
Nobody does.
I simply don't, right? So, one of the easiest ways I've been able to quantify this is like, oh, cool. If I wanted the same thing and I put a credit card behind it to reach the same audience of same people, $700,000. And that's over a 2.5 year period, right? So that's a lot of money. So great. That's helped me grow a brand. It's helped me gain more followers. I sit here now knowing that I've helped 17,000 different people solve a problem, which makes me feel incredible, by the way, like fantastic. And then the other things are like, when you're doing email campaigns, so we can track all the stats, a normal response rate these days is like 1.4% if you're doing quite a good job. Every single one of my campaigns where this is email number 3, my response rate spikes to like 5 to 7%. Same number of people I'm sending to, crazy different response rate. So I'm now engaging with like 4 times as many people as I was previously. I've had an interaction with 4 times as many people just by doing something that's going to help them versus, if I needed to interact with the same number of people, I'd have to run that same campaign for 4 more weeks to have that many conversations start or that many interactions, that many responses. So your output naturally, now I'm not saying I'm going to convert every single one of those people that respond, right? That's not the case. But I would expect my conversation rate to double. So, there's another way of gauging it that way. And that's all because I'm doing something that's helping people. I follow up with them in 2 weeks' time. How did you find the guide? Was it useful? The problem's still there, is it? I need to make that guide better. But by the way, we have a solution that solves that problem. Let's chat about it. They've already shown that they have the problem. That's the game you then start to play.
I see what you mean by that. I mean, I have a question based on what you said. Hey, you know what? Probably take 2 weeks to make sure it looks pretty if you have a marketing team. How much time is too much? Because there could be possibility I want to do it. I have the perfect material to do it. And there could be analysis by paralysis, right? People taking too much time. Are there any best practices on, hey, you know what? You can't just think too much into it as long as you have, let's say, ABC check, like a checklist for creating a lead magnet. Think of that.
100%. And it's a really, really important point. So I suppose as I've described this, right, I've already done a lot of these resources previously, and I'm now making them nicer. So I've already done all the tests. I know which ones I want to make nicer, and I'm just doing those ones, right? So 100%, it shouldn't be perfect when you do your first one. When you're starting this journey, it's about finding what topics are of interest to your ideal customer profile. So make them a bit more raw. Just put a little bit of effort in, like the time you should be spending should be making sure the research is accurate and that the resource is useful. That's where the bulk of the time should be. And then, make sure it's just slightly presentable. So it doesn't look like a scribble, and it's really, like I say, it's really easy to do on a Word document. You can format things now. It's really simple. Heading, title, checkboxes. You can do all of this stuff. Just make sure it's presentable to some degree. Then test it, use it. How many people are going for it? If it's a hit, you've hit a nerve. You've found a problem that's useful. Cool. I'm going to start making my next one. And I would do that for 6 months. I would create, when I first started, I was creating, again, I was in full-time employment at the time when I started doing all of this stuff. I was creating one every single month. So I didn't want to distract myself from the day-to-day. I still needed to call people and so on. But I'd make one a month because I could spend maybe half an hour every couple of days on making these things. But yeah, after 6 months, I had 6 tests. 2 of them were incredible. I made the 2 nicer. And then I've been using those 2 ever since. And then I start making some new ones. And then before you know it, I've created 82. But I've got 15 that are absolute home runs. I've made them look way nicer. And then I'm starting this the whole journey again. I'm just finding out what topics are of interest to people. So yeah, you do not want to get analysis paralysis when it comes to the design. It's more, I think the important bit, if you're going to get analysis paralysis, make sure it's on the topic that you're making the resource on, because you need to be in a position where you're I think this is genuinely useful. And then you need to test if it's useful. Do people even care about this? Because that's what will happen is when people say that lead magnets don't work, it's not because lead magnets don't work. It's because they don't understand their ICP well enough. They don't understand the problem they're facing well enough. That's what the test is. What's going to get people to stick their hand up to show intent? There's always something. People always have problems.
100% aligned. I'll give you an example to back it up. I created about 45 videos on Instagram between November and December. Some of those videos, I bought a tool as well, which was like an AI tool, which will add the cuts, whatnot, And the intro would start with I'm falling from the sky, bizarre things.
Yeah, nice little hooks, visual hooks.
And I thought, it's going to work out. And believe it or not, I didn't think so. I got more than 10 likes or, anybody commented or anything. It just did not work. I would say it was a complete failure. Not in the literal sense. And then what I did is I actually did what you just said. I did spend so much insane amount of time, probably a week, researching on topics which people really care about. I spoke to people. I went to Google Trends. I looked up Reddit threads and whatnot. What are people really searching for? And then I created a video which has an error on the screen text, which does not have the subtitles properly, where I'm not even looking in the camera at times. There is no cuts, there's no music, which Instagram kind of recommends, and that's my most viral video right now.
Yeah,
and I think that validates. I mean, I've never been of belief that design is important. I mean, I know people have their different values and different thoughts and beliefs on it. I believe most companies kind of think too much about the brand than they should. Sometimes people think, and I have worked with tons of those founders myself, where they think, oh, no, we have a brand to maintain. So we're going to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make sure it's perfect before we launch. I don't think so. You need to worry about that because nobody cares about the brand as much you think they do. nobody really cares about. And I'm pretty sure you may agree or disagree with me. We both have seen, bigger brands. We have seen Nike fuck it up so many times. We've seen, I remember there was an ad from Patagonia where they fucked it up. So I don't think so anybody cares.
Yeah. And I mean, this is like the blocker I mentioned at the very start, right?
Yeah.
The brand isn't important to people. It's the problem. So if we obsess over the problem we're solving for that with a nice guide, like the brand's secondary. I'll give you an example with Prospio, right? Because it's been like one of the better ones. And I'm not using this on LinkedIn. We're using this in email. This is outbound email. It's doing really, really well, right? I know that heads of sales struggle to get their sales team cold calling more because they haven't created the right environment is usually the problem. They're not training because heads of sales don't like to train in reality. They're too busy managing pipeline, blah, 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 blah. It's a huge problem, but cold calling is the easiest way to get their team to hit target. So, what we did was we created the guide, like you mentioned earlier, on how to get your team hitting target through cold calling. And it's how to do like run training programs, how to motivate, how to incentivize. It's the full thing. Prospio doesn't offer anything to do with cold calling, right? What Prospio does offer is we've got the best mobile data, which helps with cold calling and emails, right? So this guide is like so detailed. And then what we do is we just, throughout the guide, there's Prospio's logo on it. There's Prospio's website in the bottom left corner. And then throughout the guide, there's probably about 15 little blocks that pop up that say, hey, contact data has an impact here. The better the contact data, the more likely you're going to have a conversation and so on. So like we just interject it there. We just suggest that here's the solution. And that's as much brand as we put in it. It's not hard to do. We're 15 blocks compared to 23,000 words, right? It's, small little subtle. Whereas most people will be like, well, we need to make sure the brand's everywhere, that we are the solution. And, people don't want that. They just want their problem solved. So give them something that's valuable enough that they're going to, if someone uses this guide and actually does it, they will get their team cold calling more. Like it's fact. It's been tried and tested. I've done it with so many teams. So I know it works, which is great. And then it's just cool. Little subtle hints. Prospio, and so on. But yeah, you have to, the brand bit comes later. It's all about the prospect. How useful is this to the prospect? That's what it all comes back to. Because you nail that, you will get people interested in your service eventually.
Amazing. Matt, I can tell you that this has been one of my favorite conversations we've done for multiple reasons. One, I like when people kind of challenge my beliefs, and you've done a fantastic job in doing that. I think you're challenging the fundamental playbook for everybody, who's running the team. And I think I agree with you in multiple instances. We are so obsessed with the pitch that we kind of forget how to actually help people. Please tell the audience, where should people find you? And if they want to see examples of what we talked about today, any of the guides, where should they go and look at it?
I think my LinkedIn handle is Matthew Richard Putnam. I think I put the middle name in there. If you put Matthew Putnam in, there's like a little blue circle, you'll know it's me. But I mean, I do a lot of this stuff on LinkedIn outside of some rather stupid jokes and things like that. So come find me there. If you need any advice or want to drop me a question, I respond to pretty much everyone. So just message me. But yeah, you'll see lots of examples on my LinkedIn profile of this happening. And you'll see examples of me using links. You'll see examples of me doing common X for Ys. And you'll see a lot of examples of all of them working. You will also find examples where it hasn't worked so well. So I don't just nail it every single time, but I'd rather try it, see it fail, and then I know for next time that is not a topic that's of interest to people. And we go again. We just keep going. We keep going. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn. If you want to check out Prospio, again, not even to do a sales pitch, but we are a really good example of us doing this. So we created a YouTube channel, a TikTok channel, purely to do all of this. All of our videos are completely educational and we ask for nothing in return, lead magnets. So really good example of the brand we just want to give out as much stuff available for free. And then people are just coming to us to be like, what about Prospio for contact data? It's working. So, there are some two really good examples of it in action. Check out all the socials and all that stuff. Yeah, it's 100% worth it.
And I can vouch that, Prospio's data is far better than Apollo. Every time I'm not able to find a phone number in Apollo, I am definitely going to Prospio. So there goes my vote of confidence. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on. This was super fun.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.